Shalom to the elect of Israel, to the hopeful elect of Israel, you Hebrew Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indian, and Haitians. Got to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, the Most High, the Heavenly Father. His Hebrew name is Yahweh, not Yahweh, not Jehovah, not God, not Elohim, not Most High, not Lord, not Jah, not Yah. It's Yahweh. His only begotten Son name in the Hebrew is Yahweh Shai, not Yahshua, not Yeshua, not Jesus Christos, not Jesus Christ, not Serapis Christus, not Yeshaya, not Yehoshua. It's Yahweh Shai. So got to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh. Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rikah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well, who teach well. And a sincere salutation to all the octave pushing this truth and believing this truth throughout the four winds of the earth, the entire world, waking up the hope for the elect. And shalom to the Akwa who are listening and learning. Your few sisters who are listening and learning. I'm Isaiah from the GMS Orlando camp, coming into another lesson in truth, facts, faith, and edification, another daily edification. The Lord's willing, this be edifying. And this is the separation of the beast and the whore. The beast being EU and NATO, the whore being North America, Babylon the Great. The Lord's willing, this be edifying. And this is for educational purposes only. This is for educational purposes only.
Go to Europe, where the EU finds itself stuck between a rock and a hard place, the old veritable rock and hard place. The old continent has been the U.S.'s right-hand man, really, for almost a century now, but the rise of China may have shaken that bond recently. And with China and the U.S. now officially mired in a new Cold War, as we just alluded to moments ago, the EU's top diplomat has said that the time has come to choose sides. That Europe has to decide whether it's going to stick with this special relationship, this bond with the United States, or change course, maybe radically, and start going with China, who's about to become the new world superpower. All right, we've got 2 minutes for this discussion, but I want to hear what George Galloway has to say. He joins us now. George, what saith you?
Well, it was an important statement, and it's important in two ways. First of all, it does mark, as you've alluded, a move away from the United States, just 76 years after the great sacrifice of D-Day and the landings in Normandy. Now, China and the United States are being viewed as someone that you have to make a judgment between. There's no automaticity anymore in Europe's support for the United States. It also is important because it explicitly states that the new Asian century has begun. You'll remember some of the fellows on the Potomac were determined that this would be a new American century. Well, for the EU, the new Asian century has begun. And the European Union is going to have to find a way of maintaining decent relations with both sides. And that isn't going to be easy because Washington isn't going to like the small print of what the European Union diplomats have said today.
Yeah, it sounds like they're making them choose now. Now more than ever, it looks like the United States is pushing other countries. It's either us or them, and you can't choose both. We're just going to have to see the way this plays out. I was hoping we could have a little longer conversation, George, but we've had a really busy newscast, so I look forward to talking to you again, my friend.
Now you see what's going on is EU and NATO is separating from Babylon the Great. So I'm going to get some precepts. The Lord will this be edifying. So let me come back to me. Let's kill that. Now this is Daniel chapter 7 and verse 1. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matters. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of the heaven strove upon the great sea, and four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. The first was like a lion, and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. Now this is talking about Nebuchadnezzar. And behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side. And it had three ribs in the mouth of it between the teeth. Now this is talking about the Medo-Persian Empire. And the three ribs that was in his mouth was Lydia, Babylon, and Egypt. And it had three ribs in the mouth of it between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, arise, devour much flesh. After this I beheld, and lo, another, like a leopard, which had upon the back of it four wings of a fowl. This is talking about Alexander the Great. The beast had also four heads, and dominion was given to it. After this I saw in the night vision, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were three of the first horns plucked up by the root. Those three horns was British, French, and the Spanish. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. I beheld till the thrones were cast down. Oh, so let me jump down to verse 11. I beheld then, because of the violence of the great words which the horn spake, which talking about North America, Babylon the Great, I beheld even to the beast was slain, and his body destroyed and given to the burning flame. As concerning the rest of the beasts, they had the dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season and a time. This is verse 17. The great beasts, which are four kings which shall arise out of the earth. This is verse 19. Then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceedingly dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, and his nails of brass, which devoured, brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet. And of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, the 3 was British, Spanish, and the French, even of their horn that had eyes, and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. This is verse 23. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down and break it in pieces. And the 10 horns of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall rise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. It's going into North America, Babylon the Great. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and a dividing of times. This is 2nd Ezra, chapter 11 and 39. Are not thou it that remaineth of the fourth beast, whom I made to reign in my world? that the end of their times may come through them. And the fourth came and overcame all the beasts that were past, and had power over the world with great fearfulness, and over the whole compass of the earth with much wicked oppression. And so long time dwelt he upon the earth with deceit. For the earth hast thou not judged with truth, but thou hast afflicted the meek, thou hast hurt the peaceable, thou hast loved liars, and destroyed the dwellings of them that brought forth fruit, and hast cast down the walls of such as did thee no harm. Therefore is thy wrongful dealings come up to the highest, and thy pride unto the mighty. The highest also have looked upon the proud times, and behold, they are ended, and his abominations are fulfilled. And therefore appear no more thy eagle, nor thy horrible wings, nor thy wicked feathers, nor thy malicious heads, the seven heads, nor thy hurtful claws, nor all thy vain body, that all the earth may be refreshed and may return, being delivered from thy violence, and that she may hope for thy judgments and mercy on him that made her. Now, this is going to the Roman Empire, which is North America. Babylon the Great is a revived Roman Empire. This is another clip showing you that it's a separation, man. Babylon the Great, North America is separated from EU and NATO.
Global pandemic, Britain's newspapers continue to be the least trusted across a European survey of 33 countries. The United Kingdom is below Malta and North Macedonia, according to Eurobarometer, in the past few days, posing questions about what role an arguably captured media plays when tens of thousands are killed by disease.
See, EU was 10, right? The 10 horns, which is Belgium, Denmark, France, Italy, Luxembourg, Greece, Ireland, England, West Germany, and Netherlands. Those are the 10 horns. But now you heard him just say it's over 33 joined to them. Let's play it again.
North Macedonia, according to Eurobarometer, in the past few days, posing questions about what role an arguably captured media plays when tens of thousands are killed by disease.
Hold on. Let me go back so we can hear all this.
And today, amidst a global pandemic, Britain's newspapers continue to be the least trusted across a European survey of 33 countries. The United Kingdom is below.
See, it said 33 countries. It was 10, but now it's 33 countries that's joined to the EU. EU today being the European Union, but in the ancient time it was called the European Economic Community. But now it's European Unions. Then you got the seven heads, right, which is Germania Major, Romans, French, Spanish, Germania Minor, British, and the Greeks. So you got the seven heads and 10 horns, which makes up the beast. And the harlot that sits on the scarlet colored beast, the whore, is North America.
Malta and North Macedonia, according to Eurobarometer, in the past few days, posing questions about what role an arguably captured media plays when tens of thousands are killed by disease. Britain, of course, is also one of the most unequal countries on that list, and some media oligarchs may be feeling today that they're like first-class passengers on a sinking ship. That's the title of a new book by New York sociologist Professor Richard Lachman, and I caught up with him to ask him about his book, subtitled Elite Politics and the Decline of Great Powers. Richard, welcome to Going Underground. So tell me about the first-class passengers and the sinking ship.
Okay, well, this is a book that tries to explain why it is that the United States is in decline, and I do it with historical comparisons to the two previous dominant powers, Britain and the Netherlands. And in essence, what I find is that elites are able to grab control of not just government resources, but government powers. And in that way, it becomes more and more difficult for governments to make strategic decisions and allocate resources in ways that are needed to maintain global dominance.
I should say that in range, there are whole numbers of empires that get discussed in the book. But for you, national decline cannot be stopped by just mass organizing.
No, I
Hey, and there's empires in this book, okay, this Bible that talks about the empires, man, in these scriptures that's going to fall. This is Daniel 2:37. Thou, O king, thou, O king, art a king of kings, for the power of heaven have given thee a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. And whithersoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of heaven have he given into thine hand. And right, this was talking about Nebuchadnezzar. But now, who was given this power over the earth? The Idumeans, and have made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold. After thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, far as much as iron breaketh in pieces, and subdueth all things. And as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. And whereas thou sawest the feet and the toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of iron, far as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is mixed with clay. So the Idumeans, the Job 9 and 24s, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another. And what we see going on is Babylon the Great, the whore, and the beast, EU and NATO is separating, man.
I think where mass organizing matters is in what conditions of life will be like after decline. Will elites be able to become wealthier and wealthier and make more and more decisions, or will the mass of people be able, through electoral means or strikes or other sorts of mass mobilization, to be able to demand improved social programs and a more egalitarian society?
And with the debates between narrow elites controlling all policy within, say, the United States or Britain, is it a race then between climate change and the empire collapsing?
Well, I think the empire is collapsing regardless of climate change, but the effects of climate change are certainly going to overwhelm many governments around the world. And the question is whether in coming decades, the US government will have the sorts of resources and flexibility to be able to respond in ways that prevent mass suffering.
And so just to be clear, we're talking about hegemonic powers having sort of suicidal imperial instincts. And there's no real role for trade unions, political parties while that's going on.
No, there is a role for that, but their role isn't to try to maintain their country's global dominance. Their role is to be sure that ordinary people are able to lead decent lives and have a larger share of what working people actually are producing.
But in the context of this book, if you're watching, say, the Democrat primary campaign, a candidate perhaps like Sanders is not going to be fit enough to be able to conquer the elite powers that will be trying to constrain even a slightly social democratic model, I don't know, healthcare, for instance, let alone these wider ideas about anti-imperialism.
Everybody is puppets under the elites, man. The Lord gave the earth into the hand of the wicked, man, the elites. And everybody is puppets under these elites.
Really, the only good news is that sociologists are very bad at being able to predict mass movements. They erupt in ways that we really can't predict. So, that certainly is a possibility, and there's levels of despair and anger in this country that should provoke a widespread social movements. Whether those will happen in the next few years, I'm not sure, but that's really the one way in which the shape of decline can be shifted away from most people just being more and more miserable and elites getting richer and richer toward one where the decline continues. The US is no longer a dominant global power, but ordinary Americans lead much happier and more decent lives.
Okay, so we shouldn't be reading the book as a manual then, but you do appear to be saying that whereas big movements of the working class in the United States have been left to the wayside, have declined, China and India have learnt from the imperial power over those countries by Britain, by the United States, and that in a way is one of the reasons they are ascending during this decline in NATO powers.
Proverbs 30 and 14. There is a generation whose teeth are as swords, and their jaw teeth as knives, to devour the poor from off the earth, and the needy from among men. And this is who? The elites, man.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the
These Job
historical
9 and
pattern
24.
is that countries that are rising learn how to produce things, how to order their economies, how to build their governments by looking at the ones that were previously most successful. But I think we're at a real turning point in global history, that over the past 500 years of capitalism, when one dominant power lost control, there was then a struggle among a couple of rising ones, and then one won out and became the new dominant power. I think now we're going to be entering an era where there won't be a hegemon anymore. That, it doesn't seem that China or India will achieve that, at least in the next decades. And we're instead going to have a world where there's much more flux.
You know all about, presumably, the decline in funding for Amtrak, your national railway system. Over here, they're talking about a high-speed railway system that China has already offered to build in 5 years, much less than Britain is forecasting, and for less money. What kind of pressure can Donald Trump put on powers that seek their infrastructure being built by China, say?
Now you heard what he just said. Let me run that back.
World where there's much more flux.
You know all about.
Hold on, Salakia. You just heard him say there will be no new superpower, man.
Ones, and then one won out and became the new dominant power. I think now we're going to be entering an era where there won't be a hegemon anymore.
And that's facts, man. This is Daniel. Because when this kingdom go down, man, the Lord is finna establish his son's kingdom on earth. This is Daniel 2 and 44. It reads, and in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. For as much as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain with thy hands, and that it break in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great God hath made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter, and the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure. So the Lord is going to establish his son's kingdom on earth, man.
It doesn't seem that China or India will achieve that, at least in the next decades. And
Right.
we're instead going to have a world where there's much more flux.
You know all about, presumably, the decline in funding for Amtrak, your national railway system. Over here, they're talking about a high-speed railway system that China has already offered to build in 5 years, much less than Britain is forecasting, and for less money. What kind of pressure can Donald Trump put on powers that seek their infrastructure being built by China, say? which it is actually with 5G in this country. Huawei, apparently Trump threw the phone down on Boris Johnson here. Can the United States try and prevent infrastructure projects being built by the perhaps future hegemons like China?
I think the U.S. will try, but it's going to fail. And if Trump gets reelected, I think countries around the world at that point are going to decide that they have to move very decisively to try to order their economic and geopolitical affairs so that they have much less to do with the United States.
And that's a separation, man, that I just read about in Daniel 2. I'm gonna read it one more time. Daniel 2 and 43. It reads, and whereas thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is mixed with miry clay. They shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another. The heathens, I'm talking about the elites, the Job 9 and 24s, the Idumeans, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. The seed of men is the other heathen nations. You got the seeds of men, you got the seeds of the wicked, then you got the sons of the Most High, man. Okay? The seeds of men is the other nations, Chinese, Japanese, the Arabs, the Elamites. These are the seeds of men, the Hamites. But then you got the seeds of the wicked. Again, and whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seeds of men, talking about the Idumeans, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with miry clay. These nations is separating themselves from the beast, man. I mean, from the whore. It's Revelation 17 and 1. It reads, and there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, come hither, and I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. What's the great whore that sitteth upon many waters? North America, Babylon the Great control the nations, man, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication. Who's the kings of the earth? The other nations that's joined to North America through the UN, man. With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. When you go to Jeremiah 51 and 7, it's what it reads. Babylon had been a golden cup in the Lord's hand. Babylon is North America, that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. The Lord created 18 nations. You so-called Negro, Latino, Native Americans, you are one nation, the 12 tribes of Israel. There are 17 other nations on the planet. Outside of the 17 nations, you have one nation that's dominant over all 18 nations on the earth right now. And it's the Idumeans, okay? The Edomites, the so-called white man. Again, Jeremiah 51 and 7. Babylon had been a golden cup in the Lord's hand, which is North America, that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. Back in Revelation 17. It reads, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication, meaning North America philosophies, North America policies, North America legislations, North America democracy, North America draconian laws. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast. The scarlet-colored beast is what? Red, man. It's a woman. The woman that sits on the scarlet-colored beast is North America. The beast is EU and NATO. And I saw a woman sit upon the scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads. The 7 heads is Germania Major, the Romans, the French, the Spanish, Germania Minor, British, and the Greeks. Having 7 heads and 10 horns. The 10 horns is Belgium, Denmark, France, Italy, Luxembourg, Greece, Ireland, England, West Germany, and Netherlands. Now the 10 horns have joined to them. Now it's like 33 nations joined to them. And with the 7 heads, it's over Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. It's like 20 nations joined to the 7 heads and 33 joined to the 10 horns. So, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet colored beast full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. This is the beast. The beast is not talking about Satan on the ground, man. The beast represents the 7 heads and 10 horns. The 7 heads is NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. The 10 horns is EU, the European Union. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color and decked with gold. And it's saying the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, meaning of her flesh, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. This is verse 5. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. That's North America, Babylon the Great, who rules all the other nations through the UN. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Yahushua. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. And the angel said unto me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carry her, which have the 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition. It tell you the same thing in 2 Thessalonians 2. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names was not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and is yet. I'm going to take the RFID microchip, 2/3, and the heathens. And here is the mind which have wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he come, he must continue a short space. And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th and is of the 7th, and goeth into perdition. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. Verse 16, verse 15, and he said unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the horse sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushua, have put in their hearts to fulfill his will and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast until the words of power shall be fulfilled, which is until the elect get sealed. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. So now these kings of the earth that the whore ruleth over, they're tired of it, man. It's Obadiah 1:7. All the men of thy confederacy, this is talking to Babylon the Great, all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. So this is going into North America, Babylon the Great. Their allies will separate from them. Again, Obadiah 1:7, all the men of thy confederacy. Everyone, when you read Psalm 83, it tells you that all the nations that joined to North America, they're going to separate. All the men of that confederacy have brought thee even to the border to fight. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee, the other nations, and prevailed against thee. This is a future prophecy, letting you know that the other nations are going to destroy North America with missiles. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. This is again Jeremiah 51:7. It reads, Babylon hath been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine. Therefore, the nations are mad. The nations is pissed off with Babylon the Great, man. And now they're at the point of separation. This is Revelation 20 and verse 1. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having a key to the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. During these 1,000 years, this when Israelites, so-called Negroes, ruled the earth. Negroes, so-called Jamaicans, so-called Haitians ruled the earth for 1,000 years. Okay? Again, he laid hold on the dragon. That dragon is talking about Esau, Edom, the Roman Empire, and laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. For 1,000 years, we ruled the earth. And cast, well, Portugal, Spain, Europe, Ireland, all those places, and cast him into the bottomless pit and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. After this, he must be loosed a little season. Now, after the 1,000 years was up, the Lord had the spirit of the Idumeans to come out of the caves and come back on the earth and take rulership. Verse Revelation 20 and 7. And when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is at the sand of the sea. So what's going on now is a separation, and they're gathering together for the battle, man. World War III. Let's finish playing this.
You know, when Bush was first elected and invaded Iraq, I think many people around the world thought this was just a fluke. And then Obama came in, and there was a view, well, the United States is back to normal. And Trump's first election was seen as another fluke. But if he gets reelected, I think the reality will sink in that presidents like Bush and Trump are the norm for the United States, and Obama is the brief exception. And so they're going to have to figure out how they can organize themselves so that when there are future Trumps, it doesn't affect them as much as it does now. And one of the ways to do that is to exclude the United States as much as possible.
Although, of course, Obama was a wartime president, as seen by certainly most of the global South. How does the media play into your thesis about elite power then?
Well, in two ways. I mean, one, the media are very narrowly owned in the United States, and with the end of the New Deal regulatory system, where you have the fairness doctrine and limits in how many stations could be owned by any one company, that you have a move away from media that are locally based and have to give air to a variety of views to these sorts of ideological networks like Fox that can have stations covering the entire United States and just present a single party line without having to offer alternate viewpoints. And so between that and a couple of companies dominating the internet, people are on a day-to-day basis exposed to much narrower points of view that are much more open to manipulation. And so it makes it harder to have real debates and what alternative points of view there are, for the most part, confined to sort of narrow alternative media that unfortunately don't get very much of an audience.
And then while working class organizations, organizers try and retain what little they have left after the 2008 crisis, what role do you think sabotage amidst elites can play in trying to create a better world within the elites, as it were?
Well, I mean, certainly Historically, conflict among elites provides an opening for the mass of people to achieve political victories. I think what we're seeing now is not really conflicts among elites in the U.S., but rather various elites gaining total control over narrow sectors of the economy and being able to block government from interfering with that. So that sort of a structure doesn't really provide much of an opening for non-elites to play a significant political role, unfortunately.
So would the idea be to smuggle oneself into the elite and, I don't know, use political violence rather than peaceful political organization? I mean, I don't think that's going to help very much. And historically in the U.S., when there's been violence from below, anarchist violence, anti-war violence in the 1960s, that's backfired and has led to a turn to the right. So that has never been a successful strategy. I think the only thing that can be done is to make the effort to try to organize, however hard it is, and probably and that ain't gonna happen, man. That ain't gonna happen. So let me go back to this. I want to play this one more time before I close out, because Babylon the Great, North America, the whore, and its allies, EU and NATO, is separating, man. And it's beautiful because we're in the time of prophecy. So let's hit this one more time.
Europe, where the EU finds itself stuck between a rock and a hard place, the old veritable rock and hard place. The old continent has been the US's right-hand man, really, for almost a century now, but the rise of China may have shaken that bond recently. And with China and the US now officially mired in a new Cold War, as we just alluded to moments ago, the EU's top diplomat has said that the time has come to choose sides. That Europe has to decide whether it's going to stick with this special relationship, this bond with the United States, or change course, maybe radically, and start going with China, who's about to become the new world superpower. All right, we've got 2 minutes for this discussion, but I want to hear what George Galloway has to say. He joins us now. George, what saith you?
Well, it was an important statement, and it's important in two ways. First of all, it does mark, as you've alluded, a move away from the United States, just 76 years after the great sacrifice of D-Day and the landings in Normandy. Now, China and the United States are being viewed as someone that you have to make a judgment between. There's no automaticity anymore in Europe's support for the United States. It also is important because it explicitly states that the new Asian century has begun. You'll remember some of the fellows on the Potomac were determined that this would be a new American century. Well, for the EU, the new Asian century has begun. And the European Union is going to have to find a way of maintaining decent relations with both sides. And that isn't going to be easy because Washington isn't going to like the small print of what the European Union diplomats have said today.
Yeah, it sounds like they're making them choose now. Now more than ever, it looks like the United States is pushing other countries. It's either us or them, and you can't choose both. We're just going to have to see the way this plays out. I was hoping.
And that's what's going on. Now, real quick, I seen something that caught my eye on this other. Real quick, let me pull this back up. This right here. It say, so lock it for the infomercial. If it'll play. As a matter of fact, let me go to this. I'm gonna see if it's gonna play. Lord willing it do. I'll close out. It just popped up. I seen this. It said, "Will America fall like Rome?" Because this is the revised Roman Empire.
The Roman Empire is often described as the world's greatest civilization. Its long, sad path of decline and fall is a story for the ages. What can Rome's collapse teach 21st century Americans?
See, this is spiritual, man. This is spiritual. It just popped up, man.
There has been through American history this consciousness of vulnerability, this consciousness of decline, this consciousness of a past greatness that somehow we may be falling short of.
Make America great again.
Make America great again.
Politicians have capitalized on this vulnerability, but they're missing the point.
The narrative of decline and fall of Rome that has prevailed in America's minds has assumed that the fall was both the end of the story and the bad part. What if after the fall is the time we should be concentrating on as modern Americans?
If we make Romans of these barbarians, can we withhold Roman citizenship from them? No.
There are many theories of what went wrong.
There's corruption, there's slavery, there's overextension.
To evade the elephant's charge, draw the legions up in column.
The simplest theory involves a string of military losses that chipped away at its borders. Finally, a barbarian defeated the last emperor to rule from Italy. Historians consider this the end of the Western Roman Empire, the part that tends to get all the attention.
After the fall, you have the bubonic plague, you have the Dark Ages, and then eventually you come to the Renaissance.
Scholars call the era in between late antiquity.
See, he said the Dark Ages, which that was Jake ruling. Then you had the Renaissance, which is them coming back into power, which I read in Revelation 20. Okay, Revelation 20, 1 through 3. Then it jumped down to verse 7, man.
This time of transformation gave rise to new systems of government, a new state religion, and artistic experimentation. And it can be a case study for America.
When Rome went away, some things were lost, but other things were created and became possible. The idea of modern corporations and business organizations, some concept of individual rights, the first glimmer of what became universities. There was a kind of experimentation, which was the necessary precondition to the flowering of the Renaissance and onwards.
In just 6 months, 3 of the 5 biggest independent firms on Wall Street have now disappeared.
How does the US of today compare to the Rome of the past?
Over the last generation, there's almost nothing the national government system seems capable of. You have more and more national politics becoming a matter that you could call tribal or like sports rivalries in a really nasty way.
The empire might be fading, but cities and towns tell a different story at the local level.
80% of Americans across the country and of all different ethnicities and income levels considered the community where they lived to be an excellent or quite good place to live. 70% of Americans said that they trusted the people in their own neighborhoods.
It must be that America was made great by Americans.
Just as the fall of central power in Rome made way for new possibilities, a weaker national government could lead to stronger local initiative.
President Trump tweeted today that he is revoking California's ability to set its own auto emission standards.
In almost any area of public policy you can think of, there are cases of where communities, states, and regions are taking the lead where national policy is not. We're seeing things like that in western Kansas, in the little farming town of Spurville, just outside Dodge City. Wind turbines becoming a major source of income for farmers. In every city of the United States, you can see.
Now, let me read this. This is 1 Maccabees, chapter 8, and verse 13. Also that whom they would help to a kingdom, those reign, and whom again they displace. Finally, that they were greatly exalted. Yet for all this, none of them wore a crown or was clothed in purple, to be magnified thereby. Moreover, how they had made for themselves a senate house, wherein 320 men sat in council daily, consulting always for the people to the end they may be well ordered. The same thing happened in the Greek Empire. They did in the Roman Empire. They doing it in North America, Babylon the Great, which is the Roman Empire, which is to set up a Senate house. Okay? Same thing, man. There's nothing new.
City-based activity to plant more trees. It may be the single most effective short-term step to deal with carbon that's already in the atmosphere.
You see, they do that. They do that over there in Israel, man. What they call it kibbutz, man. Where they plant trees, man. Okay.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
The end of America as we know it doesn't necessarily mean the end of America.
When a tree falls in the forest, there's suddenly sunlight for the saplings that have been struggling to rise. Modern Americans should be thinking about how to avoid the decline and fall of the American empire, and also what might come next.
Hey, that's Babylon the Great, man. The collapse of Babylon the Great, man. You see, there's nothing new under the sun. So, Lord willing, is edifying. Got to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rikak Kodash, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who teach well, and the sincere salutation to all the ark and pushing this truth and believing this truth throughout the four winds of the earth, the entire world, waking up the hopeful elect. And shalom to the Akwa who are listening and learning. A few sisters who are listening and learning. I'm Isaiah. Lord willing, edifying till next time, I say shalom, wa abad babal.